Jiu-Jitsu is a male-dominant sport, so obviously there's way more men. It's hard to get women to start training Jiu-Jitsu in a gym full of guys. So a girl walks through the door, she's Jiu-Jitsu, and then there's a bunch of men training, she just walks by it. But then if a female walks by it, and then she sees one woman, she's like, wow, there's a woman there. She sees three women, she's like, oh, there's women there. She walks by and half the class is female, then she's interested in joining. So I think girls bring more girls. And I think what I've seen working on a lot of gyms is having female-only class, at least like 2-3 times a week, because many women, once they start training, they train with the guys. But for them to start, that's the hard part, because most of them, they don't want to go to a class, to a mixed class at first, at least. Maybe because of their own fears, sometimes because of their husband, boyfriend, or whatever, they don't go into the mixed class. But if they go to the girls only class, most of them end up joining the mixed class later on. So I think it's important for every gym to have a female only class so that women feel comfortable to start training jiu-jitsu. And I think obviously as you get more women training, you get more women competing. And obviously you get more women for the competition, because there's less girls competing because there's less girls practicing it. But I think once you have to start from the beginning. You can't just force the little number of girls training, force them to compete. You have to get more girls training so they eventually are gonna go compete. So I actually started training judo, and I did 3 years of judo, and eventually I joined jiu-jitsu because I wanted to improve my ground game for judo. And then in the end, I don't even do judo anymore, but I kept doing jiu-jitsu. I liked the art from the start, so I kept practicing. And then I decided I was gonna start doing it for a living. I was a black belt already when I think after I won my first worlds, I realized, oh, that's something I can do for a living. It wasn't a moment, it was a process when, I started doing it and I started realizing that that's something I could do for a living. Then it wasn't, just a moment, it was a process until I realized I could do that. It's important to have patience, especially if you don't have many women to train with and you have to train only with the men, because it's hard to measure how much you're evolving, because obviously when you start training, people have to go easy on you, so you never really know did I do that or did they let me. So it's important to have patience and perseverance, because you're not going to learn everything in a month, 2, 3, or 4. Like I've been doing it for 10 years and I still don't know half of it. You gotta keep showing up, and mostly you gotta have patience, understand that the process is going to take some time, but it's worth the whole way there. I don't really have a ritual. Lately, before competitions, I try and take 1 or 2 days of rest before the day of the competition. I think it's important for the body, but I don't really have a ritual. I think that's a delicate question. I think so. First of all, I don't think it's wrong for a professor to date a student. I think if both of them are up to it, I don't think it's wrong. But I think that professors, if they're interested in a student, I think they should be, honest about it and respectful. What I hear lots of cases happen where, like the professor is gonna, send messages and hit on the girl, like, hey, you look cute today. Like, I don't think they should do that. I think if the professor has, an actual interest in a student, like I want to date, I want to make that student my girlfriend, I think that's the only reason he should approach a girl. It's different, for example, if you have, a friend, or you meet someone at the bar and you're like, oh, I think it's fine if you just, I just want to go out with that girl one day. It's fine. But I think if you're a professor, you shouldn't, do that. I think, but at the same time, I don't think it's wrong if you have an actual interest in a student to, approach her. Definitely be very, very respectful about it. And if the professor is married, then that's out of the question. I think you should never, approach a student. And I think it's hard to tell, when the boundary is being, when you're stepping, it's hard to tell, because usually a professor is a person that you trust. trust a lot. It happened to me, it happened to so many other people that I read about, I hear. Even in cases where the professor didn't do anything, I just see how people trust them. So like, I think the professors, they should be careful with that trust that they have on them. They shouldn't, take advantage of that. And it's hard to tell, but I think like one thing that's important is that I learned the hard way is, everybody makes mistakes. You should never, ignore the signs. Like if you see something and you're like, oh, that's weird, but it's probably nothing. If it's weird, you should talk about it. Talk with your parents, with your friends, with your brother, with your sister, maybe even with your professor. Like, hey, look, you said this, but it's weird. You shouldn't trust anyone blindly. Like, oh, I trust this person with my life. No, you should always, it's okay to trust, but if something is off, you should, talk about it. And most of all, don't keep stuff to yourself. Because a lot of times, like something happened to you and you believe you've done something wrong, or you believe that something is wrong, and you don't tell anybody, so you don't really have, an insight or even like a professional opinion on it. So I think it's important not to keep things. There's a professor, the girl comes in, they fall in love, they marry. Like I don't think that's wrong. So I don't know if I think like they should, stop that. But like I said, I don't think it's okay. The word I think is like fool around, with your student. Like, I'm interested in going out with her one day. I'm not saying it should be forbidden, but I don't think they should. I think that's like that's bad. They shouldn't do that. In universities, I've seen it happening, and I think it's different because university, eventually you're gonna graduate and you're gonna move on. Jiu-Jitsu, you train you for life. Like you're not gonna graduate Jiu-Jitsu and then it's over. And I think in universities it's different. I think it should be forbidden because I've seen professors taking advantage of that. I think that more awareness should be brought into the world about jiu-jitsu because unfortunately there's so many cases where females, they feel, they feel not safe and they feel bothered by a situation like this. Because from what I hear, so many cases happening is like guys that, harass women, they think that they're not doing anything much. Like they don't think it's such a big deal. They think it's normal, and I think they should understand that it's not. And I think also more awareness should be brought to the girls so they understand that they didn't do anything wrong and that this behavior is not okay. Because a lot of times I see happening where a girl gets harassed, and then she's like, well, they were just joking, well, they were just like, because she doesn't know that this behavior is so wrong. So I think more awareness should be brought to the girls so they understand that they should not tolerate some behaviors. And also more awareness should be brought to the guys so they understand that some behaviors are not okay. Most common ones is the the black belt entitlement. I see this happening, most of the times. Like it's this, other students who are black belts, they treat the lower belts, very badly because they believe they're black belts and they have the right to do whatever they're doing. There's a lot of people talk about respect and you got to respect the black belts, but I think respect, you should respect people that respect you back. And I understand that there should be respect towards black belt, but for example, I don't think the black belt should be allowed to drink water before you. I don't think he should be allowed to drink your water, something that I've seen happening, a black belt saying like, hey, blue belt, give me your water bottle. They didn't know, like, oh, am I supposed to do that? Because, stuff like that. So I think like people should respect people who respect them back. And I think, black belts should understand that they're not above anyone else's people. Everybody's just, people. And I think like signs of abuse of power, this one is hard to say also because like a professor has to put limits and, because he runs the class. So you can't let everybody do as they wish. So obviously he's going to make the rules. It's hard to tell when it's becoming abusive. I think like this all should be talked. Like I said, you should never keep stuff to yourself. Like if you feel that your professor is abusing your power, you should always talk to somebody. Like if you have an open conversation with your professor, maybe talk to him like, hey, I felt this. Or if you have friends, parents, like I think you should always, talk about it, because it's hard to say like this is abusive, this is not, because it's different cases. So I think it's important to have an open conversation and, like talk about this to people. Understanding creonte means a person who switches gym, and people use it in a bad way, like, oh, you left your previous gym, because some people, like I was saying, they have, this blind loyalty to their team, like, oh, I'm staying here and I'm never leaving. But you have loyalty to the team. Does the team have this loyalty to you? Like, I think it should always work both ways. A lot of people talk about it a lot, like, oh, you should be loyal and grateful to your team, but like, are they loyal to me? Or even like, I can be grateful, but if I have a better opportunity out there, why wouldn't I leave? Like, it's not, just about being grateful. There's, it has to work both ways. So it happens a lot with athletes when they move teams, because they have, either a better training, or they feel more comfortable, or they have, they're offered something in another place. And I think people shouldn't be shamed for leaving their gyms. And especially women who don't feel comfortable in a place, she shouldn't be shamed for leaving. I think like people should stop this, I think it's a stupid thinking, this creonte thing. Well, so before the interview came out, I knew this was gonna happen. So first of all, when I went out for that interview, like you see, it's a big interview, like it was not just about that. So my intention on that interview, I wasn't planning on saying anything. That was something that was held on for so long inside me that when the time came, I spilled it out, like because it was hurting me. It was for a long time, so I just said everything. But I wasn't planning on saying it before going there. Like I didn't go to that interview with the intention of saying anything. But once I said everything, I knew what was coming, because I've seen cases like this before, where girls speak out and they get backlash from other guys, and especially women. There's so many sexist women out there. It's ridiculous. So I knew it was coming, but what I wasn't counting on is the amount of support I got. I got so much support. I was impressed and obviously happy about it. Like I was saying, this is regarding that blind loyalty. People, they trust so much, they are so blind, and they are like, in some gyms, it's like a religious situation. So it's like you're saying something bad about their priest or their god, and they're like you can't say that about my God. It doesn't matter how much they have wronged, you're still wrong in their eyes. So I think like people shouldn't have this blind loyalty. They should, like think a little bit for themselves. So like it's fine to be a fan, to have somebody as an idol, but you have to understand that they make mistakes. You can be like, oh, you made a mistake, but I'm still gonna stay by your side, which is fine. Like you gotta stay by the side of the people you love, but you shouldn't act like they didn't do something wrong. I think it's the part where you have to bring awareness to the people. Some behaviors are not okay, and people should know that. Women should know that, men should know that. So I think you have to bring more awareness. And I think like it's gonna take a while. It's not gonna be soon, probably not this generation, probably only the next one. But I think people should be educated, understand things, understand what things you can do, what things you should, or what things you shouldn't do. So I think like it's all about bringing awareness, and that's something I want to do. I've seen it happening before. I've seen it happening after my interview. I heard so many cases of situations like this. That's something I want to do. I want to bring awareness. I want to fight this fight for every girl that has been through it and they don't have a voice because they are afraid or embarrassed. I want to let them know that they shouldn't be embarrassed. It's not their fault. I want to let men know, that what they're doing is not okay and things are not going to stay like this. I want to let them know that if they do something wrong, women are gonna speak out. against it. People do things because they're like, oh, she's not going to say anything. Like, or if she does, no one is going to believe her because I'm a black belt, and I don't want that to be a reality. I want, I want men, mostly I want men to respect women, but you can't force them to respect something. But if they don't respect it, they have to fear, they have to understand that, like, oh, if I do this, something bad is going to happen to me, so I'm not going to.
And thank you for your time.
Bye bye. Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Bye bye.